Hi, I'm Ryan Fleming, and I'm joined by Eric Osborne of Bungie to talk about Destiny. So, Destiny's gotten a great reaction at the show, and rightly so. It's the first time we've seen so much gameplay. Like, we saw the reloading once, which was great.
I don't know if that counts as gameplay, right? It's a reload.
It looked fantastic, though. The way he reloaded was fantastic. Anyway, so you guys have been slowly releasing bits of information. How do you keep the secret with so many people and just so much interest?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we don't. Sometimes stuff leaks out and we have to take care of it. But it's fun, right? We like building up this narrative for our fans, giving people the journey. I mean, it's just as much a journey as the game itself, the introduction to the world and showing people what we have working on. There's some of it too. Like, we need to wait till we're ready before we show stuff. We're making a promise to fans when we stand up and show them gameplay at E3, and it's really exciting. But we want to make sure that what we're promising is something we're actually delivering. So we have to make sure the time is right.
So, speaking of the lore, I know you guys have spent a lot of time on the lore. Yep. How well created is what we're going to see versus what you guys know and it's just there? Like, how much background have you created?
Yeah, one of the really great things about having a long lead time and knowing that we'll be working on this for a long time is that the writers can think about things a little bit more long term. They can build these big universes.
You guys are on like a 10-year cycle with this?
Yeah. So we're absolutely focused on day one and making sure that experience is great. But for our writers, who they can start to look at inspirations like The Wired or Battlestar Galactica, great sets. Great ensemble casts with storylines that continue on. So we're going to build a narrative arc for Destiny that has a great beginning, a middle, and an end. It's going to be really captivating and really interesting for players. But we're also really interested in the players that stories can tell inside the stories that players can tell inside the world and the things that they can discover as they explore, and then keeping that thing going, keeping players coming back for more as they explore the world and find new things. It's a really great opportunity for us.
That's cool, and what we've seen, like graphically especially, looks great. It looks stunning even. But this will also be on the current gen. So were there any steps any sacrifices you guys had to make?
Yeah, so we've been building Destiny from the very beginning to be multi-platform. So from the very beginning, we've been looking at building a bigger audience. One of the reasons we partnered with Activision is so we could go multi-platform. It's one of the reasons we were on Sony's stage, because it's been such a long time since we've been able to talk to that group of fans and bring them into the fold for the first time. And as storytellers, it's really exciting for us to bring that experience to a wider audience. And we're absolutely committed to making sure that wherever you play Destiny, it's the full experience. It's a great experience. Obviously, next generation hardware gives us more graphical horsepower, and we'll certainly take advantage of those things. But everything that we're talking about, the great action game, creating a character, being a hero in our world, growing and changing over time, changing the way you look and fight, the great cooperative experience. We say everything that's fun in Destiny is more fun when you're playing it with your friends. The mythic science universe, the great backdrop, those things will all be there for all players.
So all the drop-in type stuff will be on every platform?
Absolutely. Everything we're showing off is part of the core Destiny experience. It's fundamental to the game itself.
And speaking again on the graphics and stuff like that, the demo we saw was in Russia, and you saw smoke and clouds and water and all that. How accurate is stuff like when you go into the belt of Saturn? Like, how much of that is like realistic?
I mean, we're really trying to blend the familiar with the exotic. So it's a mythic science fiction universe. We're not trying to go for absolute scientific realism, right? We want to ground players in the familiar, so we've set it in our solar system. We've set it on Earth, but it's a place made strange by the passage of time and been reclaimed by nature. So there's definitely some fantasy elements that we're playing with. We want it to feel exotic and interesting. And so you take something like old Russia, a place you could actually visit on Earth today. We throw this technological wall through it that tells a story. What happened here? What are these colony ships, and why is this row of abandoned cars spilling into the water here? And we want players to go into the dungeon and sort of uncover those secrets, find out what that story was, and maybe get some loot and fight some enemies when they're in there too.
Yeah, and speaking of, can you tell us anything about the Traveler?
Absolutely nothing. So all we said is it's saved us from imminent destruction, and it sits silent and immobile over the last safe city on Earth.
Can I ask, is that something that the game is built around the mystery of, or is it something like as soon as you turn it on, then it'll be revealed?
So we absolutely want to build a world of mystery and adventure, right? And so the Traveler is certainly one of those central mysteries. We've talked about humanity having this great golden age when they went out and colonized the different planets, and then this collapse that brought us to our knees. So we basically grouped up underneath the Traveler. It protected us. We created our city there. We draw power from it. That's where the Guardians of the Last Safe City get their powers. But beyond that, we want players to discover inside of the world. And there's a bunch of mysteries like that. Who are the fallen? Why are they here? What are the House of Devils? And what is their role in the world?
Right.
All that stuff is fun stuff that we want
Yeah,
players
that's
to
really
go out
cool.
and discover. And so a lot of that is about exploration, a lot of that is about mystery and storytelling, and we're saving a lot of that for the player to experience firsthand.
So can you talk about how many locations are going to be?
Yeah, so we're not revealing all the destinations. So far we've shown off Earth, we've talked about the city, we've talked about the tower, we talked about Old Russia now at our E3 demonstration,
Right.
We've talked about Mars, Venus, the moon, and so those are just a handful of the places players can go in the world, and we want each of them to have their own distinct flavor, and even within them we want them to feel very different, unique, depending on what you're doing inside of that world. So we want to build sort of activities for every mood, so if you're feeling like you want to absorb a story chapter or go in and do something cooperative or competitive, we're using those backdrops to really set the mood for players and get them immersed in the universe.
So is each area, like if you go to Mars, is that just a giant area itself, or is it like a couple of...
No, they're huge destinations the team is building. So some of the single destinations, even some of the smaller destinations, are like half the size of entire games that we've built before. So they're massive pieces of real estate.
Right.
There's tons of stuff to do in the world. We want to build these places that have crossroads with other players. We want to give players in these worlds opportunities to have private experiences, solo experiences with story elements, ambient encounters, stuff to explore, things to find in the world. So we were showing off in the demo a way you can get loot by defeating an enemy. There's also ways you can find loot out. Maybe you can find a treasure chest and buried in the sands in Mars and things like that. So obviously we want to move players around the world. Why build this big, beautiful place if we're not going to let people explore it?
So on Xbox, will it be on several discs then? Like, 7 or 8 discs, swap them in and out?
We're not actually talking about like the technical specs on each platform. We're actually pre-alpha right now and shipping in 2014, so I don't even know the answer to that off the top of my head, but we're absolutely just committed to making sure it's a great experience on all of those platforms.
So what's your favorite location that you can talk about?
For me, it's all about the public encounters and the community managers. So places like the city and the tower where players collide and have a social experience. It's in third person.
So are those random, by the way, the public encounters?
Public encounters, when you go into a public space, you're colliding with other fire teams on the fly. You can bring your own fire team in, so you're opting in if you want to have a cooperative experience. And when those kick off in the world, you can choose to enter into them or not. It's totally opt-in. We never force a player to have if you're trying to go and finish a story chapter, you're not like, now you're going left and you're gonna have to do this thing, you can just blow right past it. I think our job is to make sure that they're fun and engaging and captivating enough, and they have enough pull that players are gonna find it really hard to pass up.
Yeah. So like we saw that in the demo yesterday. They come out of the mission and then suddenly they're being attacked by an armada.
Correct. Yeah, so that just happens ambiently in the world. It's one of the things that makes the world feel alive. And like I said, if they didn't want to fight the Devil Walker, they absolutely don't have to, but we're trying to make them attention grabbing and make them look really fun and exciting and really rewarding to participate in, both intrinsically and extrinsically. We want to make these great gameplay scenarios that are just really fun to play a part in, and also we want to give rewards for these events that will drive players to complete them as well.
And finally, so far everything we've seen, it's set up like a, in some ways classic sci-fi. You have the action elements and you have the post-apocalyptic. So it's not really bleak, but it is a little dark. Yeah. But then you see the demo and you have the dancing and like the smart Alec wisecracks and stuff like that. Yeah. So how much of the balance is humor versus this kind of dark feature?
There's always a little bit of levity that we try to inject in the universe. We want to build a bright and hopeful place that people want to spend time in. And it's an action game. It's about having fun. We make games that we want to play and we like having fun. We think there's something about the games we build that's a little bit different than some of the other experiences you might have. And that fun element, that sort of quirkiness and not taking ourselves too seriously is definitely there. And it's in our past games, and it's a heritage that we love and embrace. It's fun. We can go serious. We have, a writing team that's dedicated to making a great, captivating story filled with rich actors and incredible characters with their own motivations. But when it comes down to the player, we want to give them all the opportunities they can to express themselves and to have fun in our world.
Cool. All right, looking forward to Destiny coming out next year on multiple platforms.